All right, I think we are recording. We are recording. All right, awesome. Thank you everyone for joining us. Welcome to our Urella's first information session with our employer partners. And today we have PwC here with us, Mr. Justin Blyden. We're going to hear all about PwC, the opportunities that they have for you as a Delaware State University student. But I wanted to introduce myself, my name, because we have some freshmen on the line. My name is Miss Danielle Craig. I am the Assistant Director here at the Office of Urella. What does that stand for? Undergraduate Research, Experiential Learning, and Honors. So all things experiential learning, undergraduate research, and then if you are an honor student, you already know me. But thank you for joining. If you have not done it already, please go ahead and put your classification, whether you are a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and your major in the chat for us. Also, at any time, if you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll be going back to revisit them. I also want to introduce our director of Urella, Miss Shonda Poe. She is on the line. Do you want to say anything at the moment?
Yes, I just want to say hello to everyone. I hope your academic year is off to a good start. I want to say thank you very much to Justin for PwC for giving this opportunity for our students to learn more about PwC. And so I hope you all enjoy and be able to partake and participate in this session today. So again, welcome.
Thank you, Mrs. Poe. And so we're going to get started. We have from PwC, let me go ahead and do that. From PwC, we have Mr. Justin Blyden. He is a senior associate in PwC's workforce transformation practice. Justin has 13 years of experience supporting clients execute on strategic and operational goals across several industries. Justin brings an interdisciplinary approach to developing tailored workforce transformation solutions by leveraging organizational change management, strategy, and culture. He recently led the development of the strategy, blueprint, and rollout action plan for digital workforce transformation at a healthcare provider to support the multi-year transformation journey towards becoming a learning organization. Justin holds a BA in Business Administration from Morehouse College and is a licensed CPA in the state of New York. So thank you so much, Justin, for joining us, and welcome to DSU. I am going to hand the floor over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Craig, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Hopefully you're excited to learn a little bit more about PwC, what the firm has to offer, who we are, and hopefully where you could fit in to what we're calling our new equation, right? So as Ms. Craig said, if you have questions just top of mind heading into our session today, feel free to drop those in the chat, and I'll make sure that we get those answered before we finish today as we go through the presentation. And I want to make this not very stuffy. So, if there's a question along the way, again, we'll make sure that we pause to try to reflect and see what's in the chat and make sure that everyone's getting the answers that they need out of today's session. So with that said, I will jump right into it and begin to address who are we? Who is PwC? In the event that you haven't heard of PwC, we're a professional services firm, and we are a purpose-led and values-driven firm. And so by that, we're working to make sure that we can support our clients in building trust in society and solving important problems. And we do that by executing on our values that you see here on this screen. So caring, making sure that we make a difference in the work that we do, reimagining the possible, working together, and of course, acting with integrity. As I mentioned that last part, I want to immediately bring clarity to the fact that PwC is not just a public accounting firm. Perhaps that is where our roots started, and today the firm is much more than just the public accounting aspect of that traditional business. And so you'll see in a few more slides the breadth and scope of all of what we do and how we deliver service and value to our clients. PwC is a pretty large firm. Hopefully that doesn't scare anyone away. So when you think about PwC, we're a network of firms. meaning each firm in each country operates as its own legal entity, but partner with all the other PwC firms to go to market as a network. And so we operate in 155 countries across the globe, over 80 offices here in the US, 284,000 people globally. Across those 155 countries, we have over 700 locations, so that's standalone offices. Revenue is in the $40 billion range. And we have the distinct pleasure of working with clients, 84% of the clients that make up the global Fortune 500 list of companies. So I mentioned before this new equation concept, and it's PwC's response to where we are today as a society and in the fact that the world is changing, right? And what we're finding between technological disruptions and climate change and the impact that climate change has on the world, the geopolitical arena, social tensions, and of course, this ongoing global pandemic, how we work and the speed at which we work as a society is becoming that much more dynamic. And so PwC's recognized that, and we've made the necessary adjustments in our business to make sure that we can respond to that constant need for change. And also the fact that our communities, our clients also need a heightened reliance that they can trust, you know, the work that we provide, that their clients and customers trust the work that they put out into the market as well. And so we call this shift that we're making the new equation. And it's also affected how we go to business as a firm and how we structure ourselves. I'll pause here. I'll take a peek at the chat to see if there are any questions that came through. None as yet. Anyone want to vocalize a question or a thought at this moment, just based on the first few slides around who we are as a firm? All right, I'm going to take silence for now to mean that we're going along smoothly. So what do? I mentioned earlier, we're not just professional services. And so when you think about PwC today, I want you to think about two broad categories, trust solutions and consulting solutions. And trust solutions brings together what was formerly our assurance and tax reporting businesses to better serve the needs of clients as they seek to build trust with their stakeholders, right? And as you think about that traditional work, whether it's financial statement audits or preparing corporate tax returns, trust and making sure that there's a level of accuracy, of course, is really important to our clients, shareholders, as they go about their business operations. And then the second piece of this two-pronged approach is what we're calling consulting solutions. And this brings together our legacy advisory or consulting business, as well as our tax consulting capabilities to help clients deliver sustained outcomes in tax efficient manners for large scale transformation. And so if you recall from the introduction that Ms. Craig gave, I sit in the workforce transformation space. So my practice rolls into the consulting solutions platform. And I get to support clients through large-scale transformations driven by, you know, any number of triggers, whether that's implementing a new piece of technology, a change in the laws and the regulations under which that client has to operate, a change in their workforce structure, how they want to be structured, or even a cultural change that they're experiencing, right? And so supporting these two big pillars of our new equation is what we're calling products and technology. And so PwC has a very strong and growing products business. So again, yes, we're service oriented, but you can also purchase products that are developed and owned and managed by PwC, very strong technology business, and also the business support teams that support what our client service professionals deliver to the market. So in summary, yes, we still have what you might have traditionally known public accounting to be in terms of assurance or audit, tax, advisory, or consulting, but we've bucketed them in such a way where they're able to take the strengths from similar practices and then go to market in that more cohesive manner, and tax consulting sitting in the middle that bridges the gap between large-scale transformation and strategic initiatives, and trust solutions, because what you will find is that tax and being tax efficient is super important in almost every major business decision that a company will make. So to get into a little bit more detail, you see some examples there. So we have the audit services, where you might be on a team providing audit or attestation services, financial statement reviews. You might be in a tax services team, which could include tax accounting support or tax compliance support for large corporations. As I mentioned, consulting services, which is really broad. Could be one of our transformation practices. It could be a deals practice, a cyber technology practice, products and technology, and then business services, like I mentioned previously. So one other major change as we think about our new equation is just new ways of working. Certainly, we've all been affected by the COVID pandemic, and for PwC, that's meant that we've been able to pause and reflect on how we work and making sure that how we work makes sense given these broader, societal pressures. And so PwC going forward is going to take this three-pronged approach in terms of how we work. The firm expects that most PwC professionals will be in the flex model, meaning you'll be working from a PwC office or client office, perhaps 1 to 3 days a week on average. And, on the outskirts, outliers would be those professionals who are mostly virtual, meaning they're in the office, for less than a week each month. And that's mostly for team events, team meetings, training, things of that nature. And then we have a small population of the PwC workforce whose roles would require them to be more in person and in the office between 4 to 5 days a week. And that could be, again, at the PwC office or at your client site. Most all professionals are still going to be tagged to an office regardless of your work model. So for instance, I am tagged to New York. Pre-pandemic, I was usually at a client site across the country somewhere. So once we sort of move into this new way of working, would fall into that flex category. Of course, considering the expectations of my client, where for 1 to 3 days a week, I can be at the PwC office in New York or at my client site, wherever that might be located, but still having that flexibility to work remotely when that is necessary for me. Any questions around the past few slides we just spoke about? All right, I'm going to force you guys to speak shortly or else we're going to finish early. So I think what's super important to also highlight today is how do we bring our purpose to life? So again, building trust in society and solving important problems. And we as a firm cannot do that without people, right? And so when you think about PwC, we're also very, very focused and dedicated towards engaging and empowering our people and developing that sense of leadership that allows everyone to do their part in living that PwC purpose and those values. What you see here is intentional. I wanted to start with the rewards and benefits aspects of the job and making sure that even at this stage in your careers as college students, whether you're a freshman or a senior, understanding that a part of your compensation package and how you make these decisions, should be based on, total rewards and compensation. And at PwC, that's of course your base salary. PwC professionals are eligible for milestone awards, annual performance bonuses, a pretty good time off package, health and financial well-being, and real-time recognition. So it's not just your take-home salary, but you're rewarded in a variety of ways that I think make for a really sweet package once you're at that stage in your career.
Hey, Justin.
Yes.
Question. Can you elaborate on the real-time recognition in detail and how do a person go about earning real-time recognition?
Sure. So real-time recognition is a concept that the firm put in place to make sure that in the moment, you're able to be recognized for going above and beyond, or, you know, taking on a stretch assignment, that allows you again to be recognized in that moment. And so at the firm, everyone has a budget, a moderate budget that they can use to gift their peers or subordinates a real-time recognition award. And so that can come about by your demonstration of one of our values. So whether it was care or acting with integrity, making a difference in the moment as you're doing your job, as you're really, you know, knocking it out of the park in one of these dimensions, your manager, your senior associate, you know, your partner even has the ability to reward you, between, I think it's $25 and $1,000. Don't expect 1,000, because then that would probably kill someone's entire budget for the year. But it's a really great way to have a little bit of that in the moment, you know, recognition and warm, fuzzy feelings for the work that you do day in and day out at PwC. Thanks for that question. I think that was Kevin. So the other aspect of enabling our people is making sure that there's a very well thought out developmental experience. And so what you're seeing here are all of the aspects of how PwC makes sure that as professionals, we all get the development and coaching and feedback that we need to grow and evolve our careers in a way that makes sense for us, right? So I'll start at the top right in this orange section where it talks about the PwC Professional Career Progression Framework. I'll speak about that in detail in just a few more minutes, but it's essentially the model that guides how PwC selects and develops and measures PwC professionals. And by select, I mean it's also the framework that's used for your interviews. There's, of course, real-time development, in-the-moment coaching and feedback. We have the PwC Professional Snapshot, which is, you know, that evaluation measurement or metric that guides how are you progressing relative to your developmental goals. The PwC Professional Snapshot also follows the PwC Professional Career Progression Framework. We have Career Outlook, which is that annual discussion around your performance for the year. How are you trending? Where might there be opportunities for development? You know, how are you performing relative to your goals, relative to your peers? This is held by between directors and partners, making review decisions about the entire team, and the outputs from this discussion inform any salary raises, bonuses, things of that nature. And so that's what happens in career roundtables. You'll meet with your career coach and you'll discuss the results and, of course, discuss the steps and tweaks that you need to make going into the next performance year, again, based on the goals and developmental actions that you need to take for you. And the last piece on this wheel is your career coach, who is that person that's dedicated and assigned to you as your formal coach here at the firm. That doesn't mean that you can't find others and have as many as you want, but this is the person whose formal role is to be a part of your coaching and development team, making sure that you're able to navigate your career in a way where you're well supported and it's moving in line with, again, your developmental needs and goals here at the firm. Any questions about this developmental experience wheel and how we build leaders who build the future? Okay. So the PwC Professional Breakdown, I spoke about this briefly before. This includes the 5 dimensions that, again.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get off. You had another question about the career progression.
Okay.
What is the typical timeline left of promotion for each level?
That's a tough question. I think typical is relative based on the group that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can vary. I think a new associate at the firm can expect to be in that new associate role typically between 3.5, 4 years. closer to the 3-year mark, and perhaps the same for senior. And after senior, I've seen that typical time spread again, just based on your role, your team, business need, things of that nature. But I think for where most of our attendees are today, coming in as a new associate, you can expect that typical is between 2.5, 3.5 years as an associate before you're promoted to senior. Any other questions?
There's a question in the chat from Sequoia. It says, so this is something that we could continue after school as well?
What's the this? I'm not sure. What are you referring to, Sequoia? And feel free to come off mute and clarify. I'm not sure what you're referring to exactly.
Like when you say that we can come in as a new associate now in like 3 to 4 years, like we could be promoted to senior, like will we like continue in that position after school or no?
So if you join PwC full time, whenever you start, the progression timeline that we just discussed would happen after you start, right? So once you've demonstrated your capabilities at that associate level and eligible for promotion, that happens then, and you can continue in that role. If you want to pivot into a new role, a different role, that's something that could be discussed with your coaching team. But typically, your career path and how you want that to look at PwC is something that you get to weigh in on. Hopefully I'm answering that question correctly, if I understood it correctly. So let me know.
And I think maybe, oh, go ahead, Sequoia.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Ms. Craig?
No, I was just going to state, I think some of our students might be looking more at internship opportunities. And so thinking if this is particularly conducive to the internship, or is this actually for full-time position after they graduate?
So the framework is applicable even at the internship level. We'll get to internship opportunities in the next few minutes, but the framework, that PwC Professional framework, even as an intern, it's what guides your interview process. It's how decisions are going to be made about even whether or not you'll be extended an offer after your internship. So I'll speak about that a little bit more, and then we can get into internship opportunities and where you could, experience PwC during the summer while you're still a student at Delaware State. So the PwC Professional breakdown covers these 5 dimensions: whole leadership, business acumen, technical and digital skills, global and inclusive, and relationship skills. And again, the takeaway here is this model is what's used to evaluate me and some of my colleagues, not some, all of my colleagues on the call today as full-time professionals. And again, it's also the framework that's used in your interview process. It's used for evaluating interns. This is what really grounds who is a PwC professional and making sure that we're all developing across these 5 dimensions. And so when we think about the skills for that PwC professional today, what you're seeing on this slide is that it's really more than just those 5 buckets. As we think about how society is progressing, it's making sure that we're continuous with staying on top of our technical and educational requirements. So for me, that's, taking my required courses each year to maintain my CPA license. Data is big in the work that we do today. So skills around wrangling data and using data to glean insight about what that data is trying to say, and then how do we visualize that data to tell stories. And of course, the project management and change management skills to manage these huge complex projects and situations that our clients come to us with. And design thinking and storytelling, again, how do you tell a story and convey a feeling or a message based on the data, based on what you're hearing, based on the insight that you've collected. So it's really the spectrum of the professional framework as a baseline, and what you're seeing, if you sort of count how many of these boxes include the word data, right, is a very, very heavy focus on data and being comfortable with the use of interpretation of manipulation of data. And then the storytelling and the skills to sort of explain what the data is saying. So getting into what is applicable for most of you after that high level, who is PwC and what do we do? It starts with you, right? PwC isn't PwC without the smart, intelligent minds and faces who are, resonating with the mission and the purpose of the firm and able to live those values as we perform our duties and client service responsibilities. So for right now, fall 2021, the recruiting timeline, if you haven't seen this anywhere else before, please know that PwC's application deadline is next Tuesday, September 21st at 11:59 p.m. What that means is you just have to get the application in. Everything else after that would happen after that. But getting the application in is the first step, and that would need to be done by September 21st. By October 5th, you would have received an invitation to interview after your application has been reviewed. And it's typically for this cycle, 2 back-to-back virtual interviews. We're still not doing interviews in person just as yet. And if you've applied for an advisory position or consulting position, there'll be another third round interview for all of the advisory positions. So I want to make sure that everyone understands the path to PwC. I mentioned at the top of the call that there's lots of opportunities at the firm. And so the biggest thing to understand is first knowing where you are, i.e. when your intended graduation date is, because that helps to inform which opportunity you should be focused on. So for instance, if you are currently starting your sophomore year, that sits you in this, second column of your 4-year college journey, you'll see that you have 2 opportunities to join PwC for the summer. The first would be your Start Diversity Internship, and the second opportunity would be Elevate, which is a shorter comprehensive program compared to the internship, which I think this summer was between 6 and 8 weeks. Or the Women's Consulting Experience, which is specifically for women and pipelining into consulting careers. If you are a junior right now, your opportunities are going to be our Advanced Client Service Internship, where you will be applying for a specific practice area, so whether that's assurance or tax or advisory. And usually if you're in your senior year, you would have bypassed opportunities for internships and you'll be looking at full-time opportunities. So right now on PwC's careers website, we have opportunities open for Start Internship, for the advanced internships, and a few positions open for full-time starts. The Elevate program and the Women's Consulting Experience and Career Preview, which is typically for freshmen, these opportunities open in spring. So if you're looking for something this semester, you want to get a head start and secure a summer opportunity, you'll be looking at Start if you are in your sophomore year of a 4-year program. If you are considering the 5th year because you're an accounting major, you can also be eligible for Start. Or if you are a junior in a 4-year program, you will be considering our Advanced Client Service Internship. And again, this would tag you directly to either an advisory role, an assurance role, or a tax role. There's a lot going on this slide, and it's also what I think most of you are interested in. So I'll pause and make sure I make this as clear as it needs to be so that everyone understands what's happening here.
Anyone have any questions?
So while you guys wait to come up with really great questions for me, what I want to also convey here is what you see at PwC or with PwC is that you can literally have an experience with the firm every summer of your college career. I want to make sure that you guys all understand the importance of not just the summer internship opportunities, but also the work that you do or need to do in the year leading up to these opportunities. So for instance, I commend all of you today for, making the time in your schedules to join this information session. I encourage you to join as many as possible so that you have the opportunity to explore and understand what all firms and opportunities coming to campus have to offer. But also take this time to make sure that you're working with career services or your academic advisor to perhaps prepare your resume, perhaps seek out mock interview opportunities so that you can, do your best when you get to these opportunities to actually interview. Making sure that you're doing the work to stay connected with the various professionals that you have the opportunity to meet, because we know that networking is a really huge part, networking and relationships really a really huge part of how business works. So hint, hint, you'll all be able to leave today's session with my email address. Don't take that for granted, right? And it's not because I'm super special, but because it gets you in the habit of understanding the importance of networking and relationship building. And you do that for me and any other, corporate representative recruiter that you have the opportunity to meet this semester, a deep day. Take advantage of these opportunities. Again, if you don't have that resume already prepared, I am sure Ms. Craig and Ms. Poe are probably smiling ear to ear because they can help you with that. They can help you direct you to the resources to make sure that you have a really strong resume that's well prepared and laid out so that when you do have to apply, it's not a rush or a scramble to present your resume and complete applications. So I'll go back to the chat. Any questions?
Yeah, one just came in.
Okay. Would there be opportunities for students that are majoring in electrical engineering at PwC? So I am going to say you can find opportunities if you search really hard for them, right? And I say that to suggest, especially in our advisory business where consulting is, what we do, but it can also be applied to very specific industry groups. You'll find that some industry groups that we service here at PwC, whether it's defense and manufacturing or utilities and oil and gas, could have really strong need and desire for persons with your electrical engineering background. So I'll get to this later on in the presentation as well, but I would recommend one of three things. One, making sure that you stay in contact with your professional that you just met, who can help you navigate this big system. Two, check out our careers website. There are two tools on the website. One is a student quiz that helps you determine where you fall in this path to PwC. And there's also a feature that allows you to search PwC opportunities by your academic major, so you can begin to get a sense of, oh, with this engineering major, here are the 5, 6, 7, 12 opportunities that could align with my academic training, right? So I would say those three things definitely gets you a start in figuring out how you might be able to apply electrical engineering in a PwC sense. And like I said, what I can say for sure is with that background, you're looking at a consulting role versus audit or tax, which I'm sure you're not interested in anyway. Caesar, does that answer your question? You can give me a thumbs up or just vocalize or drop it in the chat. I want to make sure that everyone's super clear with the time that we've spent together today. While Caesar confirms, any other questions? I think earlier I saw a few freshmen, sophomores. I saw at least one senior.
Hi, I had a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So with the associate position, could you briefly just go over what is included in that? Please.
Sure. So as an associate at PwC, you are, new to the team, new to the firm. You'll be staffed with a team of other professionals. And so that's typically at least a senior manager, a director, partner. And that, of course, that team size can expand based on just the size of your project. If you're on one of our larger projects, there'll be multiples, perhaps at most of those levels. And the way that I like to describe the associate role is you are on the front line of almost everything that's going to be done or worked on for the client. So you're preparing most work papers, most deliverables. You're probably really into the details around the research and fact gathering. If you are in the assurance or audit practice, that could include things like inventory count or drafting a lot of the audit work papers. If you are in the tax practice, that could include reviewing a lot of the financial statement supporting materials that would be needed for drafting, a corporate tax return. Or you might be a part of that first calculation of the tax accounting calculation to get to the tax expense on financial statements. In the consulting space, it's a little bit more flexible because consulting also has the opportunity, even at the associate level, for you to own your own work stream of a project. So you're no longer just preparing something, but you're owning it. You'll prepare it, you'll probably review it. Someone else is going to review it as well, but you have more ownership of your work stream within the consulting practice. You'll still be going to market on a team. You won't ever be by yourself working on anything that we do at PwC. So it's really just you're on the front lines, you're in the weeds, you're preparing, you're researching, you're gathering data. That's typical of the associate role. I think if Kevin is still on, you can share from your perspective what that's been like for you. Is Kevin still in the call? Kevin is not. Gary, are you able to chime in on thoughts around the associate role?
Hello. Sure. I can't say purposely because I didn't come in as a associate, but I have worked and led quite a few associates since I've been with PwC. And I think you nailed it on the head, Justin, with about what that entails and what that looks like. But I have had the experience of being able to do associate level work when I first came in, which I think was a great learning experience because, to your point, you do get to learn a lot of, and as you mentioned earlier, about what it means to do data gathering. And you'll find yourself becoming a jack of all trades and a subject matter expert of everything, is what I would say. You may not feel that way when you come in as an associate, but you will learn quickly that once you do something once, you'll become an expert. And it's a great experience, I would honestly say. I mean, there are going to be bumps in the road. I'll be honest about that as well. But during that phase is the perfect time, I would say, to definitely learn from mistakes that you make, but also acknowledge them, and then don't also be afraid to ask for help. Because at the associate level, you're not expected to know everything, but you are at least expected to be able to come in and recognize, where and when you need help. So that's probably one of the best things I would definitely say, just come into as an associate with that perspective that, you're not expected to know everything, but just come in knowing, how to ask for help when you are feeling, like you're struggling with something.
Thanks, Gary. The other thing I would add for you, Alasia, and anyone else is being very open, clear, and honest around the idea of busy seasons in our environment, right? There are going to be times when you're going to work beyond that 8-hour, 9-hour day. It is not forever. It is not intended to be forever. But it's a part of the job, right? And so similar to what Gary said, I would take those opportunities in your career as learning experiences and seeing the bigger picture of what you're driving towards and why that's important. It's not anything that's happening to you. Everyone who's worked in professional services in an accounting, audit, tax perspective has experienced busy season. But I want to make sure that I'm very clear and level setting that you will have those moments, that extend, 2-3 months where your work days are longer. Maybe there's sometimes weekend work, just so that, at the highest, busiest times of our year, the work can still get done. Any other questions about the path to PwC? So what I want to make sure I get time to speak about, just really quickly before we end here, the QR code here, if you grab your cell phone, take a picture, it takes you to that quiz I just mentioned a few minutes ago, where you can answer questions specific to your facts and circumstances to understand, one, which PwC opportunity is best suited for you, and can then guide which application you complete by Tuesday, September 21st. So I'm going to give you like 30 more seconds to check out, or at least get this QR code loaded, because on the next slide, there's another QR code that gives you the opportunity to sign up for a one-on-one coffee chat with a PwC professional. So if anything that I said today, anything that you would have seen on our website sparks your interest, you'll have the opportunity between tomorrow and Monday to connect with a PwC professional. It's a variety of folks, so you'll be able to find the person that best appeals to your interest and have one-on-one discussion. So clicking through to the next slide here, for anyone who's interested in that coffee chat, go ahead and scan this code and it should take you to a Google form where you have the opportunity to sign up to have a coffee chat. First come, first serve, based on schedules and availability of the PwC professionals who have freed up time in their schedules, anxiously waiting to speak with Dell State students. So if there isn't anything else, that's the end of my presentation, right? I'm really excited about having had this opportunity to share PwC with you. Several of your colleagues at Dell State have experienced the firm the last 2 years. And, if you run into any of them on campus, there are a few campus ambassadors floating around. So check with Ms. Craig, Ms. Poe for those names of your peers who can also speak from their experience as prior interns at PwC. What they've learned of the firm, what they appreciate, what they've learned about themselves even during their internship experience, so that you can begin to make that informed decision for yourself, for what you're going to do next summer, or if you're a senior or getting ready to embark upon your 150 credit hour requirements, what you do or can do once you complete that and are ready to start your full-time career. With that, I am going to say a big thank you. This is the part of the presentation where you all write down this email address so that you can stay in contact and start exercising your networking and relationship building skills. And I promise you, the person on the other end of this email address is really friendly and excited to connect with all of you. So thank you again for the time. Thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Craig, Ms. Poe. Thank you so much for having me. I'll stick around and can hang out for a little bit if anyone wants to ask any questions after we sort of wrap up here.
Thank you so much, Justin. That was a lot of information, but very good information, detailed, and very clear for our students to be able to realize what's out there for them at PwC. And the fact that you still have your email address on the screen, guys, screenshot this. All right, especially for our freshmen who are just coming in, you may not know, but building your network is everything. Okay, so when a professional gives you their email, their LinkedIn, their cell phone number, take it, save it, and reach out to them. Ask any questions that you have. He's there, right? So go ahead and make sure that you guys obtain that information. Justin, we thank you so much for your time today. Guys, if there's any questions, please feel free to stay on or linger back or send an email and thank our speaker for being here and ask your questions. Very important. The deadline for this year's PwC's application is Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. So that means today. Hopefully you've signed up for one of those one-on-one calls that the QR code was just on the screen for. Get your questions answered. Go find out how you apply. Make sure that your resumes have been reviewed by your career coaches within the Office of Career Services, and apply. Even if you think that you shouldn't, if you have some sort of interest, I definitely would say sign on and speak with a PwC professional and apply, right? There is a reason that you're on this call. We thank you so much for taking your time out this afternoon. We're going to give it, Mrs. Poe, I want to give you the last word, and then if anybody wants to stay around for any questions, please do so. But thank you for joining us, guys.
All right, like Ms. Craig said and Mr. Blyden said, thank you very much for joining us today for the PWC Information Session. I know it's truly valuable for each and every one of you. Please make sure you stay in contact with Justin because these opportunities just don't come by every single day. So if you have any questions, make sure you stay on and we'll be able to assist you. Again, thank you very much. And if you don't have questions, have a good class if you have them this evening. Remember to stay masked up, stay safe, be well, and go Hornets. Have a good one.
Bye, guys. All right. Let me stop this recording.